Khalif Browder was born on May 25, 1993 in the Bronx, New York. At birth, due to his mother's drug addiction, he was placed under Child Protective Services. He was the youngest of 7 biological siblings. Khalif's adoptive mother, Vanita Browder, had raised 34 children by 2015, including fostered, adopted, and her own children. Khalif attended New Day Academy, and the staff said he was very smart and was a fun guy. However, in 2009, he was charged with third-degree larceny. Police testified that he had crashed a stolen bakery truck into a stationary car while joyriding. At the age of 16, he was charged as an adult. He pleaded guilty but later said he was only a bystander. Khalif was registered as a youthful offender and placed on probation. On May 15, 2010, police apprehended Khalif and a friend on Arthur Avenue, near East 186th Street in the Belmont section of the Bronx. Khalif had said he was going home from a party, and at this point he thought the police was just doing a routine stop and frisk, a procedure he had done on a number of occasions and was familiar with. A 911 call placed by Roberto Batista about the theft of a backpack containing a camera, $700, a credit card, and an iPod Touch. He had said 2 black guys, they took my brother's book bag. Khalif told the police, "I didn't rob anyone, you can check my pockets." The police searched him then, but did not find the backpack, or any of the things that were stolen. Robert, who was in the back of the police car, identified Khalif and his friend as the thieves. He said the theft had occurred 2 weeks earlier. Robert's testimony of the date of the theft varied between interviews, as well as different parts of his story. Initially, he had implied the robbery happened on the night he called 911, but when questioned by the officer who had arrived at the scene, he had said it had happened 2 weeks prior. At the scene, Robert implied, after some questioning, that someone had merely tried to rob him and may not have actually succeeded. On the initial police report filed after the arrest, Robert indicated the robbery occurred on or about May 2nd, but he later told a detective that it happened on May 8th. The amount of discrepancies in his story, and the police didn't think this is strange, and it doesn't add up to the 2 individuals he's accusing. Khalif had asked the officers why he was being charged and told them he didn't do anything. He was told he would be taken to the precinct and would likely be allowed to go home. Khalif and his friend then were taken to 48th Precinct Police Station, where they were fingerprinted and kept in holding cell for a few hours. They were then taken to Bronx County Criminal Court, where they were processed. 17 hours after the arrest, Khalif was interrogated by a police officer and a prosecutor. The following day, he was charged with robbery, grand larceny, and assault. Due to him being on probation, he wasn't released. At his arraignment, he was charged with second-degree robbery, and his bail was set to $3,000. For the bail bondsman, the amount needed was $900. His family couldn't raise this money and had to borrow from a neighbor. When his family went to the bail bondsman to post his bail, they were told that since he was on probation from his prior felony conviction, his probation officer had placed a probation violation to hold him, so posting bail would not get him released. He was then taken to Rikers Island to await trial and resolution of his pending probation violation. The United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York said Rikers Island had a deep-seated culture for violence in which inmates suffered broken jaws, broken orbital bones, broken noses, long bone fractures, and lacerations requiring stitches. Khalif said inmates washed their clothes with soap and a metal bucket, causing rust stains on the clothes. His mother began visiting him weekly and provided him with clean clothes and snack money. To avoid becoming a target of the inmates, he slept on top of all his belongings, including his bucket. He felt pressured to gain physical strength to defend himself from carceral violence. He said, "Every here and there I did a couple pull-ups or push-ups. When I went in there, that's when I decided I wanted to get big." Khalif was a victim of carceral violence. On one occasion, he and other inmates were lined up against a wall. Correction officers wanted to find the instigator of a fight. Khalif and the inmates were punched one by one, he said. Their noses were leaking, their faces were bloody, their eyes were even swollen. The guards had threatened the inmates with solitary confinement if they reported their injuries. On October 20th, 2010, a gang member spat in Khalif's face. Later in the day, Khalif had punched the gang leader and was set upon by 15 gang members. cameras. On September 23, 2012, a video was recorded showing Khalif in handcuffs being assaulted by guards. After a fight with an inmate, he was put into solitary confinement for 2 weeks. He later said of the other inmates, "He was throwing shoes at people. I told him to stop. I actually took his sneaker and I threw it and he got mad. He swung on me and we started fighting." Khalif spent nearly 2 years in solitary confinement, mostly after fights with other inmates. He later said that while in solitary confinement, correction officers beat him when he was showering. He said a verbal confrontation with a guard would escalate into a physical altercation. Brendan O'Meara was appointed as his public defender. Throughout, he had maintained his innocence. Due to the backlog of cases at the district attorney's office, his trial was heavily delayed. In July 2010, 74 days after his arrest, Khalif was brought before a judge. The grand jury indicted him on a charge of second-degree robbery. A second charge of punching and pushing Robert was heard. Khalif pleaded not guilty. His family went to the bail bondsman about the new charge, but his bail posting was denied because of his previous violation for his probation. On December 10, 2010, a potential trial date was set after prosecution and defense had submitted notices of readiness. On January 28, 2011, 258 days after his arrest, Khalif appeared in court. The prosecution requested a determinant of proceedings. On June 23, 2011, his records show the people not ready, request another week. This went on for 3 more separate occasions throughout the year, and then another on January 3, 2012. Khalif told his lawyers he wanted to go to trial. He had been offered a plea bargain of 3.5 years if he pleaded guilty, but he declined this offer. In June 2012, this period was reduced to 2.5 years, but again, he declined. On June 29, 2012, and 3 more separate dates throughout the year, again, the people were not ready. After 961 days on Rikers Island, he had appeared before 8 judges. On March 13, 2013, he appeared before Bronx judge Patricia DeMango. She offered Khalif a plea deal of immediate release for his admission of guilt on 2 misdemeanors with consideration of his time that he had already served. He declined and was then returned to Rikers Island. On May 29, 2013, the same judge freed him in anticipation of the dismissal of the charges against him 1 week hence. Robert, who had accused Khalif, returned to Mexico and could not give his testimony against Khalif. It is currently unclear how long he was kept incarcerated after the DA's office realized they could not prove their case at trial. Soon after he was released, Khalif passed the GED exam and had enrolled at a community college. He completed 11 credits and finished his semester with a grade point average of 3.56. Due to his depression, he didn't attend college in the fall semester and had to re-enroll in the spring. On May 11, 2015, he submitted a paper titled "A Close Look at Solitary Confinement in the United States," for which he received an A. Khalif had learned how to kill himself when he was in prison. He had said he saw another inmate in jail try it. He said, I didn't see him when he did it, but I did see him when they took him out of his cell and he had the sheet around his neck. While incarcerated in 2010, he made his first suicide attempt. He tried a second time on February 8, 2012, trying to hang himself using strips of his sheet tied to a ceiling light in his cell. He later said the correction officers goaded him to commit suicide. He recalled one of them saying, "You might as well go ahead and jump. Go ahead and jump." On another occasion, after an appearance before a judge, he made a sharp piece from a bucket in his cell and started to slit his wrists. An officer had to intervene. After his release, he continued to have symptoms of depression. In November 2013, he made another attempt and was admitted into a psychiatric ward, the first of 3 admissions to that ward. On June 6, 2015, at 12:15 p.m., he had hung himself from an air conditioner unit outside his bedroom window at his mother's home. His mother had discovered his body. More than a year after her son had hanged himself, Vanita Browder died from heart complications on October 6, 2016. It said she died of a broken heart after everything had happened to Khalif and how he was struggling once he was released. He would have bursts of anger where he would just punch the wall. He was asked about the case from a guy on his block and he told him that he doesn't want to talk about it. The guy then ran upstairs, got a knife and started chasing him. He had to physically hold the guy's hand so he wouldn't be stabbed in the face. Former President Barack Obama spoke about Khalif's case and banned solitary confinement after his case had drawn national attention. Thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you for the next one.